The word to my friend who explains a bit why he decided to take fight and why. I want to mention that this video is more like from spring 22, so it's when they just entered the war, some anarchist comrades. So it's his speech from that time, like from the beginning.
My name is Ilya. I'm an anarchist and I live for several years in Ukraine now. I would like to answer the question from many of our comrades in all the world, why we are here, why we participate actively in the resistance against Putin's imperialist aggression. First of all, we need to stress that we are here not to defend the Ukrainian state. We know perfectly well that this state system does not deserve to be protected by any revolutionary, but we protect Ukrainian society and Ukrainian people. Today, resistance, it united together people from all the layers of the society, ordinary villagers, ordinary workers, taking up arms voluntarily to defend themselves against the Putinist aggression and this invasion. The reason is that this society does not need to be distracted by the forces of this totalitarian government of neighboring country which now attacking it. So this is the fight for the people, for the society, and not for the state. Also, and this is connected with the previous point, is that any political force which wants to be presented in today and future Ukraine should take its side with the people now. If we want to suggest for the society any libertarian changes, any libertarian revolutionary program, first of all, we need to stay organized and mobilized now against the common threat which deadly threats all the society. And this is exactly what we are doing now. This is the way for us to structure ourselves to form really politically significant movement. This is like the part of our revolutionary anarchist task for now. This is not something separate from our ordinary anarchist struggle. And also some specific stuff which is known perfectly well for people in Russia, in Belarus, in Kazakhstan, in any of post-Soviet countries, that for any positive social changes, the first point of the plan is the collapse of Putinist regime. And we know, all people from these countries, we know perfectly well then if Putin's regime will be defeated in this war, this will create a chance for the people to get rid of this regime. And this is the very turning point, the very original point for any positive changes in our regions. This should be taken into consideration. I salute you from Ukraine. Solidarity and strength, comrades.
So before the war, I was the participant of several collectives. One of the main things I was doing was ABC Kiev. I know that you also have ABC Helsinki, so I expect you more or less understand what usually these collectives do. For us, it was a bit different because I would say that in Ukraine, we never had a huge movement since Bakhmut times. But we had 80 years of Soviet Union, so we didn't have any wide political movements. It was impossible in that time, so no protest culture, nothing like this. And somewhere in 90s, some activities started to happen there. So we started to have some anarchist struggles, but small ones. I would say that even in zeros, successful demonstration in Kiev was 20 people maybe, sometimes 50 with all the friends. So we were comparably small movement. It started to change a bit in the beginning of zeros, but in general, during all these years, we didn't have so much people imprisoned, comrades imprisoned. So the main thing we did was helping other comrades who were leaving their home places to become political refugees in Ukraine, mostly from Russia and Belarus, because regimes there were developing their dictatorship badly. So we had a lot of people crossing the border and starting their life in Ukraine from Russia and Belarus, who, as the collective, we helped to find lawyer, to try to do something with documents if they want, to find the place to live, to find work, to develop their life on the place. One of the people, or the person who helped us the most during these years, we had this ABC since 2011, was Maxim Butkevich. And as everything changed with the beginning of war, he also is a war prisoner now, and we have a campaign trying to make it more visible that he is actually there, captured by Russians more than a year, somewhere in Lugansk region, still waiting to be exchanged. So we were dealing with these refugees mostly, and a lot of them did live in Ukraine, especially we had a big wave of refugees 4 years before full-scale invasion because of the network case in Russia. I don't know if you heard about that. It was big case about extremism and terrorism in Russia with anarchists involved, and a lot of people were charged. So some people left, and as my collective, we expected that these people, if the this full-scale invasion will pop up, they will actually cross the border to Europe, because it would be possible maybe, or we will help. Even if it's not possible, we will still help or something. But then in the end, we ended up in the situation just days, months before, discussing what people actually want to do, and most of the refugees decided to stay and fight. So before this full scale, we were a comparably small movement. We had kind of several initiatives. Since 2014, we had war, but movement was more or less ignoring it. Because as anarchists, we didn't know where to place ourselves. From one hand, we don't give a shit about territories, So we didn't really think that we should fight in that meaning, fight for territories. From other hand, we have war in the state, war in the place where I actually live. It still influences people, because it was still a lot of people coming from Donbass, coming from Crimea. There were activists killed. There were actions going on. We had a couple of comrades from Crimea also involved in struggle when Russia just occupied it. But as a movement, we didn't have any response. So more or less, I would say that these first years of war, we were not totally. Some groups were preparing, some groups were training, but more on the level to train in the forest. So we were on the bigger scale, we were more or less ignoring what is going on. And at the same time, other political groups, also right-wing, they were developing themselves in the army. They were building up their presence. So at the moment, when we discuss it at home, we actually think that we made a mistake ignoring the problem. So during these years, we were developing other things. We had several successful projects, Rhythm of Resistance were growing and were present on demonstrations. Also, we had this anarcho-feminist festival, which was quite big every year. I know, nothing big, but some projects were developing, but without really the attention we needed to give to the topic of war. Also, I would say that before this full scale, we started to discuss it. People were discussing, what actually would you do? What is your plan if tomorrow Russia will attack your city? What is your plan? What would be your reaction? So people started to discuss it more seriously some months before. So in December 21, something like this. And some people said okay, yes, if it would be full scale, I will go to army, because we don't have any other chance to fight. So fighting means that you will join the army actually. So we had a group of people who decided to do this, and the plan was that they will go to one territorial defense. We have this system that we have army, but also we have territorial defenses with people who kind of they are like part of territorial unit. So, for example, like the small cities near Kiev, they have their own units, or near Kharkiv, or in some districts. So people can come to the army point and say, okay, I'm from there, I want to go to this one. So the idea was that all these anarchists, to try to stay together, they will go to one unit where the commander is also a comrade. So they will kind of have a possibility more to stay together and to develop like things inside the unit the way they prefer. So make it more horizontal, make it more like with equality, you know, like closer to anarchy standards. So that was the plan from one part of movement. Other part decided like, okay, I'm not ready to go to army, but I still want to support. So the idea was that other part of people will create the group, like volunteers who will support the ones who went to fight. But I would say that we discussed it still very theoretical, even days before full scale, because at least in my opinion, we expected that it will never happen. And if something like this will happen, Russian people will go to the streets, you know, protest, all this, which for a pity wasn't true. So 24th of February, when we woke up from explosions, like from the sounds of somebody from maybe view of bombings, people started to do what they planned. So part of people organized in a unit, which was called Resistance Committee, and it still exists. And it was one unit in one of the smaller cities near Kiev with the commander of a comrade, and they started to train there. It was not much fighting on that exact land where they stayed. But they had their time to train, to have some more knowledge, because most of these people never ever had any militant experience. So it's not anyhow not a professional army or something, just, you know, like nowadays when somebody is murdered, news, they say a lot, like official media, they say a lot if it was a soldier or a civilian. But the thing is that less than 2 years ago, all these people, most of these people were civilians actually. So these civilians collected there to train, and we expected it to be like this during the whole war. But when fights near Kiev went out, so we had fights near the capital, but then Russian army stepped out, like were kicked out from the region. So they went more to, I will show the picture actually with the map, I think it would be easier. So yeah, violet is the things which were occupied before 2022, and the red rose is more like where Russians are now. Now it's a bit less, but more or less. After spring 22, they were more like keep that direction. But when they just entered Ukraine in winter 22, they went to the capital. You see, Kiev is more like in the middle of the map, closer to Belarus. So they tried to go to Kiev from several directions, one of which was from Belarus. So it's like really short way if you go from there. So in the beginning, like, yeah, people from Kiev could join this territorial defense because Russian army was there. Then they went, and that a bit changed our plan, because it started to be pointless to keep staying in this territorial defense. As you know, like, if it's no Russian army there anymore, it would be no fight. So people just staying there doing nothing or training. So yeah, we hoped that it would be possible to go as one unit to somewhere to fight, because people had a will to keep on fighting. But they, yeah, we didn't manage to agree with army that they go all together. So people started to split to different units. For the moment, we have comrades trying to stick like at least 2-3 people together, sometimes 5, somewhere in different units, so that you still stay with somebody you know, with your comrade, with somebody you trust, but they are not staying as one unit anymore. But yeah, first I think naturally people went to fight for the place where they physically live, so for the city. But then when we saw how Russian army acts, how they treat us, how they kill people, what are their rhetoric, because their rhetoric is actually very right-wing. The things they are saying about Ukrainians or whatever other, how they call it, minor nations, they are very unhumanistic. And yeah, we understood that what we are facing is actually mass murder. So people are not fighting for the land, they are fighting for the people around them to try to secure their lives. And they wished to do it actively, so they went to the front line with different units. Now we have several, most of them are official part of the army, sometimes they are not. Because, for example, for foreigners, it's really difficult to officially register, or some people want to keep having status without really officially dealing with the army. So they formed several different groups also. We also have a lot of medicines, and we have groups which are these more like officially volunteers, so between medics especially. So I want to show one of these groups. Are you okay with videos? One of these groups also telling about their presence now, and it is this. Can we make sound a bit louder? Is it possible?
Yes. You can put it on the YouTube also louder.
Okay, good. Sure, I guess. So, I know who you are, but can you tell for our viewers, who are you, whom you've been before the war start, what you've been doing, maybe that's something you can say, something you not?
I am Marcy, I am from London, and I am a gardener, and I came to Ukraine to help left-wing people because they asked for help. So, and now I'm just help people driving an ambulance in Bakhmut.
Мой позывной Чарли, я сама из Беларуси, и сейчас я здесь в Бахмуте работаю медиком, боевым медиком. Мы занимаемся эвакуацией людей с позиций, помогаем стабилизировать их в бахмутском стаб-пункте, помогаем с перевозом людей дальше в больницу, где им будет уже оказана более тщательная медпомощь.
Recently there's a lot of shelling and there's been a lot of civilian casualties in Bakhmut and still in very dangerous positions all through the war, like before working in Kharkiv, and now in Bakhmut you just see that there are a lot of desperate people here who don't have an opportunity to leave their homes, and it's actually a very big tragedy, and always wondering if they can leave, that they should, if there is support enough for them to leave. Obviously not, and then you just see them getting injured and killed on a daily basis.
Pretty insecure, I would say, position of a volunteer, because it gives you some flexibility, because you don't need to take somebody's orders unconditionally. Like for example, now we are staying in Bakhmut and we work with different brigades, and nobody can tell us, so today you pack your things and you go to Lviv for 2 months, where you are just going to sit and do nothing. No, we can decide by ourselves, and like we saw a lot of brigades rotating, and we just stay and continue working.
Yeah, we'll pick up and treat anyone who is wounded, and we are using vehicles that can go in the field, so we're mostly working on near positions, trying to grab people from difficult areas. So if a civilian is there, we will grab them. If a soldier is there, we will grab them and try and treat them.
There were some really sad situations. There was like, we went to actually pick up some lightly wounded, just with shell-shocked guys with contusion, and then a civilian guy came with bicycle and asked us to go to the place, to different place, because there was somebody wounded, and we went there, and there was this kid, like maybe 14 years old or 16 years old, I don't know, difficult to say, and like he was completely damaged. He had some shrapnel in his abdomen, and he was bleeding severely inside. So we couldn't really do a lot. We just like bring him to hospital very quickly. I gave him some painkillers, and later this kid died. When people go too much into geopolitics and try to dig deeper about which politicians supported which other politicians, and they go on a state level, and they say that like, but in this year Ukraine sends their soldiers somewhere else, and like they start talking about this kind of things, and there is no understanding of that. Like, yeah, there are dirty politics in every country. There are wrong actions of different politicians in every country, but this is just occupation by an imperialistic state, and this is pretty natural and normal for people to try to stop it, stop people from getting killed, stop cities from getting destroyed, getting bombed. What we are doing as volunteers, it's not for politicians. We are not doing it to support Ukrainian politics. We are just trying to stop the fascist imperialistic invasion happening in Ukraine. And as Belarusian, I can also say that my country suffers from Russian imperialism just a little less than Ukraine, and like it's normal to rise up against it and to stand up against it and to take arms and to try and protect life. And everybody who encourages to do nothing or to agree with it, like encourages butchering civilians every day, in my opinion.
I come from a background that would always question hierarchies and be quite skeptical of them, definitely valuing female soldiers and help on the front line is a questioning of patriarchal hierarchy, I would say.
I also had this experience, I think mostly because people realize what you are capable of, like, how to say, the further from the front line, men tend to, switch on this kind of, I'm a macho, I'm a cool guy, but the closer to the front line, they realize that, like, oh, a bomb is going to fly here and I'm gonna be killed in a moment, and like, they realize that like no matter how macho you are, somewhere they are like at the real front line and under the real artillery. You're just a little guy who is trying to dig as deep as possible. And they also realize that a lot of female soldiers, they have courage, they have capability to work, they can do their work, and like very often they are more brave than, for example, men. And so when you go through this kind of situations with the guys, then all this kind of patriarchal regular shit just disappears, and you just stay there and you continue work as equals.
I'd like to say that like the vast majority of people that we are picking up on the front lines who have horrific wounds are like ordinary working people, and I think that they should ask for free healthcare and free education after this is done, because I smell their blood every day and they have paid for it. Don't let anyone tell them that they owe money for weapons, or they got support from the West to fight this war to liberate themselves. Like, they are the ones making the sacrifice, and after the war they definitely should benefit, and they should, and seeing all the desperate people in Bakhmut who don't have anything, the civilians who've just been left like behind there, it's really like they definitely deserve and should get free education and free healthcare. That's my opinion.
Thank you for even paying attention and following the situation here. This is also important, that people care, you know, because a lot of people don't. And yeah, I want to thank a lot of collectives, and among them actually Collective Solidarity, who support us, with whose support we can do works, and we will need support in future, of course, because our cars get broken, get bombed, we use our supplies every day, and it needs to be filled, and most of what we use is just one-time use, like bandages or drugs or whatever. So this is something we need constantly. And what else? Stay safe. Stay safe and take care. This is the most important. And don't do wars. Stop doing wars. If you ever think about doing war, think about something different. Yeah. The world needs less wars. War sucks, friends. Trust me.
It's about это батарея, зарядка. I hope it will help you a lot.
Arsi. Drive it.
Special from Mars.
Drive it, because it's your British car with like just as you like it. Just as
Okay, the end is just artistic part, I would say. So yeah, our collective, like our comrades who are fighting, they developed different groups, and the same time from the beginning we organized our volunteer work. So me, I was part of volunteer from beginning. I'm not brave enough to go to any front line, for a pity. So what we organized in the beginning was the group called Operation Solidarity. That was our logo. First days before, we already started to try to understand what actually people who want to fight need and what we can buy. With buying was several problems. First was like really with the help of a lot of collectives who supported us from beginning of war. We dealt with the first problem very fast. First problem was money. So a lot of people donated and we managed to buy a lot of stuff. The problem was that it's really difficult to buy it because in the shops in Poland, Lithuania, Slovakia, Czech Republic, it was impossible to buy things which we need already first days. It was so fast sold out that we couldn't really buy it there. Then it was the same situation with the whole Europe. So some things like some parts of protection we were buying from, I don't know, Japan or Austria, which was like crazy. But when we had our comrades already fighting and still not having protection, you would like really look good and try to find it very actively, I would say. We did buy a lot of stuff. We did with the help, for sure, of other collectives. It's not only us who did it. It was a lot of people involved. We managed to bring it to Ukraine. It was a lot of brave people who were like really moving things here and there, who were coming to quite dangerous parts of Ukraine to bring people also, because it was a chain of people who were trying to get out from the country. The huge work was done, but I mean, war doesn't really come with mental stability, I would say, and one of the persons in the collective started to behave abusive and macho and all this shit, and we started to get into conflict with the person, and in the end the person left with part of our money. So I would say that together with war, bombs, craziness, already comrades who died, information about them, also having this was like really shit. I mean, yeah, at some point we decided that as a collective we don't want to have even the name anymore, so we just kitted this Operation Solidarity. So if you still follow these our old web pages, be careful, because people who still own the page are stealing. So Operation Solidarity, no. And we started to have other collective with another name, which is called Solidarity Collectives, because it's like more like group of collectives. And I would say that, at least in my opinion, it was much more healthy to really close that first topic, which was more organized during the time when we were like under huge pressure of just popped up full-scale invasion, just started new situation. And yeah, the mistake we made was that the person who stole, he made our accounts. So he owned money accounts. That was the problem. And yeah, after a lot of discussions, he gave us back most of the money, but some part he stole. He still stays in Kiev. It's difficult because we have no consensus what to do according to the problem, because the person is not declaring himself as anarchist anymore, so he can go to police, blah, 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 which creates not nice situation. I hope one day I will tell something else about this, but for the moment it's like that. So we started this new Solidarity Collectives from kind of new page. For sure it was minus because this Operation Solidarity was more like already well known, but who cares? So we started from beginning, and we also started to rediscuss how we want to see us. So now we have more or less 3 lines. We are not only buying stuff, we also have humanitarian lines. So we have part of people who are more like interested into going to support civilians living closer to frontline, or worker unions participants who also live somewhere there or suffer from flood which happened on south of Ukraine because Russian army destroyed dump. Is it dump? Yeah, destroyed dump, and that's the most agricultural place of part of Ukraine which was totally flooded, and the fields became desert there. So we have situation when some people, some working there people or some worker unions people, they their houses were flooded, ruined. They needed equipment to make it dry because there are big machines which make walls dry if it's still possible to dry them, if houses were better quality or water were there not that long. We also were bringing their power banks or blankets, whatever people may need in these territories with worker unions. It's sometimes even just food packs, because when Russia bombs plants and factories, it means that also one of the problems is that people are actually losing their working places. And if it is a working, factory working guy, maybe he has a family, kids, sometimes she doesn't work, so the family becomes really fucked up because they don't have income anymore. And for Ukraine, state help is not money you can live with. It's just impossible, because I think in some cases it's 20 euro per month, which doesn't really make it possible to live with that money. So we started to have also this humanitarian line, and we also have media part with which we are trying to spread the information about what we are doing, about our, both our work, but also trying to fight Russian propaganda, which is, I think you know what is Russian propaganda here in Finland, which is crazy, which describes us as all Nazis, right-wing people with trained birds to spread disease to Russian people, and I know some crazy hell what they do. So I would say that maybe in the end it was even, I cannot say good, but it had pluses in what happened with this previous collective, that we restarted, rethought what we do, reviewed also politically, we are trying to be present also with media. Both we have worked out more to comrades on the West, because also we have some, we have critique. Also, I would say that it's a lot of standing on Russian propaganda. So we are trying to have some kind of dialogue with other collectives, because in the beginning it was ridiculous. We thought that different collectives from the places which names I even don't know, some rich European cities, they already have their opinion, they already made some text on this topic, what is going on with us actually, without really any attempt to talk to Ukrainian comrades, because we exist, we are there, but our own comrades trying to take out our subjectivity. Because I know some German people or some Austrian people know better than us, and we want to fight it. We don't want to have it like this. But also we are trying to work inside Ukraine, to be present, to show that, okay, we are anarchists, we are doing this, this and this, we are present, we have our political ideas. We want to call people to react also on what is going in Ukraine, because for a pity, war doesn't make any government better or any, society much better in some meaning, yes, but in general not. So we still have corruption, and we still have groups who are trying to have their benefits from war. So the way some laws are changed now is not good, and we're expecting that it would be also, because of these inner things, very difficult after the war for working class. So we expect that they will have a need and an interest in people who can discuss and support them in their struggles, because it's already developing. It's already that worker unions are discussing their problems. We have new projects, also from working people, new projects, like Medicians, for example, they started to have, it's called Be Like Nina, and you can Google it. It's also quite new, good project. It's not very new already, but it's connected to the full-scale invasion, what they do now. So we are trying to be present in this and that, even though we are comparably small collective. We are something like 10 people. And we spend a lot of energy on collecting money, buying things for army and civilians, because our volunteers also bringing things closer to the front line, to the occupied cities, for example. And then we're also trying to be present as a political group in, media and on the streets, not with demonstrations now, but with coming somewhere, giving help to people and saying like, okay, it's us, we do this and we think this, and read Kropotkin or something like that. And I have a video. I love videos, as you already maybe paid attention, with my comrade who is telling about work more detail.
Колективи солідарності – це об'єднання антиавторитарних активістів та активісток, які до 24 лютого 2022 року відстоювали ідеї рівності, солідарності, кооперації та взаємодопомоги. Відстоювали права робочих, грали ритмом у супротиву на феміністичних маршах, організовували антидискримінаційні акції, екомарші, грали у футбол, танцювали на панк-рок-концертах та організовували фрімаркети. Але 24 лютого наше життя, як і життя мільйонів українців, змінилося. Ми – ініціатива, що була створена анархістами та анархістками задля підтримки антиавторитарних бійців на фронті та допомоги постраждалим від війни. За рік війни ми передали солдатам обладнання на сотні тисяч євро. 11 машин. Прийняли участь у закупівлі 20 дронів. Аптечки з тактичною медициною, шоломи, бронежилети, прилади нічного бачення та багато чого іншого для більш ніж сотні бійців. Провели 12 гуманітарних поїздок у міста, що постраждали від війни. Ми підтримуємо іноземних медиків-волонтерів, що евакуюють та стабілізують поранених цивільних та військових у Бахмут. Групу анархістів із організації Комітети спротиву, що навалюють окупантам з мінометів. Аеророзвідникам та аеророзвідницям, що літають у Бахмуті, Запоріжжі, Харківщині. Десантникам, що ціною неймовірних зусиль боронять кожен метр біля Бахмуту. Білорусів, які, як ніхто інший, розуміють, як виглядає життя при незмінному диктаторі та знають ціну повстання. Росіян, які, на відміну від багатьох співвітчизників, повірили, що вони все ж таки можуть щось змінити, і тому доєдналися до Збройних сил України. Феміністок, які пішли воювати на рівні з чоловіками.
Увагу, терпіння і ніж таке.
Екоанархістів, які не відмовилися від веганства навіть у окопах, та багатьох інших. Війна йде рівно 1 рік, та чимало спорядження та техніки, що ми передали бійцям, було знищено. Але, на жаль, є куди більш страшні втрати. Цей рік забрав життя багатьох наших побратимів та посестер. Це Ігор Каїн Волохов, Юрій Янов Самойленко, Сергій Рубін Петровичев та анархофеміністка Тіша. До російського полону потрапило 3 наших товаришів. 6 отримали поранення. Ми точно знаємо, що наша ініціатива працюватиме і надалі. Ми і надалі будемо споряджувати бійців та бійчин на передовій, допомагати пораненим та сім'ям загиблих. Ми будемо продовжувати організовувати гуманітарні поїздки до прифронтових територій. І надалі розвивати мережі солідарності як всередині України, так і за її межами. Підтримувати та кооперуватися з низовими та волонтерськими ініціативами. Колективи солідарності – це не просто назва. Це суть і головна ідея нашої діяльності. Завдяки десяткам колективів та тисячам небайдужих людей ми спроможні йти далі. Окремо ми хочемо подякувати ініціативам, що протягом усього року працювали разом з нами та надавали неймовірну допомогу та підтримку.
Okay, the end is just artistic part, I would say. So yeah, our collectives, like our comrades who are fighting, they developed different groups, and the same time, from the beginning, we organized our volunteer work. So me, I was part of volunteer from beginning. I'm not brave enough to go to any front line, for a pity. So what we organized in the beginning was the group called Operation Solidarity. That was our logo. First days before, we already started to try to understand what actually people who want to fight need and what we can buy. With buying was several problems. First was like really with the help of a lot of collectives who supported us from beginning of war. We dealt with the first problem very fast. First problem was money. So a lot of people donated and we managed to buy a lot of stuff. The problem was that it's really difficult to buy it because in the shops in Poland, Lithuania, Slovakia, Czech Republic, it was impossible to buy things which we need already first days. It was so fast sold out that we couldn't really buy it there. Then it was the same situation with the whole Europe. So some things like some parts of protection we were buying from, I don't know, Japan or Austria, which was like crazy. But when we had our comrades already fighting and still not having protection, you would like really look good and try to find it very actively, I would say. We did buy a lot of stuff. We did with the help, for sure, of other collectives. It's not only us who did it. It was a lot of people involved. We managed to bring it to Ukraine. It was a lot of brave people who were like really moving things here and there, who were coming to quite dangerous parts of Ukraine to bring people also, because it was a chain of people who were trying to get out from the country. The huge work was done, but I mean, war doesn't really come with mental stability, I would say, and one of the persons in the collective started to behave abusive and macho and all this shit, and we started to get into conflict with the person, and in the end the person left with part of our money. So I would say that together with war, bombs, craziness, already comrades who died, information about them, also having this was like really shit. I mean, yeah, at some point we decided that as a collective we don't want to have even the name anymore, so we just kitted this Operation Solidarity. So if you still follow these other old web pages, be careful, because people who still own the page are stealing. So Operation Solidarity, no. And we started to have other collective with another name, which is called Solidarity Collectives, because it's like more like group of collectives. And I would say that, at least in my opinion, it was much more healthy to really close that first topic, which was more organized during the time when we were like under a huge pressure of just popped up full-scale invasion, just started new situation. And yeah, the mistake we made was that the person who stole, he made our accounts. So he owned money accounts. That was the problem. And yeah, after a lot of discussions, he gave us back most of the money, but some part he stole. He still stays in Kiev. It's difficult because we have no consensus what to do according to the problem, because the person is not declaring himself as anarchist anymore, so he can go to police, blah, 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 which creates not nice situation. I hope one day I will tell something else about this, but for the moment it's like that. So we started this new Solidarity Collectives from kind of new page. For sure it was minus because this Operation Solidarity was more like already well known, but who cares? So we started from beginning, and we also started to rediscuss how we want to see us. So now we have more or less 3 lines. We are not only buying stuff, we also have humanitarian lines. So we have part of people who are more like interested into going to support civilians living closer to frontline, or worker unions participants who also live somewhere there, or suffer from flood which happened on south of Ukraine because Russian army destroyed dump. Is it dump? Yeah, destroyed dump, and that's the most agricultural place of part of Ukraine, which was totally flooded, and the fields became desert there. So we have situation when some people, some working there people or some worker unions people, they their houses were flooded, ruined. They needed equipment to make it dry, because there are big machines which make walls dry if it's still possible to dry them, if houses were better quality or water were there not that long. We also were bringing their power banks or blankets, whatever people may need in these territories with worker unions. It's sometimes even just food packs, because when Russia bombs plants and factories, it means that also one of the problems is that people are actually losing their working places. And if it is a working, factory working guy, maybe he has a family, kids, sometimes she doesn't work, so the family becomes really fucked up because they don't have income anymore. And for Ukraine, state help is not money you can live with. It's just impossible, because I think in some cases it's €20 per month, which doesn't really make it possible to live with that money. So we started to have also this humanitarian line, and we also have media part with which we are trying to spread the information about what we are doing, about our, both our work, but also trying to fight Russian propaganda, which is, I think you know what is Russian propaganda here in Finland, which is crazy, which describes us as all Nazis, right-wing people with trained birds to spread disease to Russian people, and I know some crazy hell what they do. So I would say that maybe in the end it was even, I cannot say good, but it had pluses in what happened with this previous collective, that we restarted, rethought what we do, reviewed also politically, we are trying to be present also with media. Both we have worked out more to comrades on the West, because also we have some, we have critique. Also, I would say that it's a lot of standing on Russian propaganda. So we are trying to have some kind of dialogue with other collectives, because in the beginning it was ridiculous. We thought that different collectives from the places which names I even don't know, some rich European cities, they already have their opinion, they already made some text on this topic, what is going on with us actually, without really any attempt to talk to Ukrainian comrades, because we exist, we are there, but our own comrades trying to take out our subjectivity. Because I know some German people or some Austrian people know better than us, and we want to fight it. We don't want to have it like this. But also we are trying to work inside Ukraine to be present, to show that, okay, we are anarchists, we are doing this and this, we are present, we have our political ideas. We want to call people to react also on what is going in Ukraine, because for a pity, war doesn't make any government better or any, society much better in some meaning, yes, but in general not. So we still have corruption, and we still have groups who are trying to have their benefits from war. So the way some laws are changed now is not good, and we're expecting that it would be also, because of these inner things, very difficult after the war for working class. So we expect that they will have a need and an interest in people who can discuss and support them in their struggles, because it's already developing. It's already that worker unions are discussing their problems. we have new projects, new also from working people, new projects like Medicians, for example. They started to have, it's called Be Like Nina, and you can Google it. It's also quite like new, good project. It's not very new already, but it's connected to the full-scale invasion, what they do now. So we are trying to be present in this and that, even though we are comparably small collective. We are something like 10 people. And we spend a lot of energy on collecting money, buying things for army and civilians, bringing, because our volunteers also bringing things to the closer to the front line, to the occupied cities, for example. And then we're also trying to be present as a political group in, I don't know, like media and on the streets, not with demonstrations now, but with coming somewhere, giving help to people and saying like, okay, it's us, we do this and we think this, and read Kropotkin or something like that. And I have a video. I love videos, as you already maybe paid attention, with my comrade who is telling about work more detail.
I salute you, dear comrades. My name is Ilya Leshiy. I am Russian-born anarchist who now participate in the defense of the Ukrainian society against the imperialist aggression. It's been a year now since we fight this battle, and almost a year since I recorded the first video for the comrades in Europe who participates in the solidarity events and discussions around Ukrainian situation. So, like almost a year passed since then, but still we struggle, and I use my several days off, which I spend in Kiev, and you can see that Kiev also suffers from the aggression of the Putinist regime. I use this time off to record this video for you. Now I participate in a struggle in Donbass, where we still fight the offensive of the aggressive forces and also of Wagner private company and of regular army of the Russian state. I want to stress once again that we are here neither to defend any neoliberal policies or any state structures. We are here to defend the society which defends itself against the aggression and against the elimination and enslavement. Are we tired? Of course, yes. We are exhausted by this year. But still, we think that we are obliged to gather all the forces that we have to continue this struggle. And we also call you to combine your forces together to support us. Because when we talk about any pacification, about any peaceful agreements, this is just fantasies now. As anarchists, we all know that justice is the precaution of any peace. So we cannot allow the enemy to conquer us and to dictate us the conditions on which we should live and construct our lives. We also rely a lot upon you, because your role could be very great to support anti-authoritarian movement and anti-authoritarian fighters and activists who operates now in Ukraine. When you ask yourself what you can do to make situation in Ukraine better, I believe that is to support the people who share the same ideology and worldview that share you. So please don't hesitate to help our comrades who collect support and help for the Ukrainian anarchist activists and also trade unions and several different civil initiatives, and also volunteers who fight in the front lines. Because this is fight for freedom, and this is fight to liberate ourselves from the threat of the imperialist enslavement. Like when some people, and I know that some people in Europe share this argumentation, that we should find other ways to deal with this conflict and to deal with this aggression, I would say you that the only alternative is self-enslavement and surrender towards the very dictatorial and totalitarian force. This is not the step which any revolutionary and any anarchist can take. Because of this, me and my comrades participate in this fight, directly as combatants. And we will do it further on until the enemy is beaten and until the dictatorship will suffer its defeat. We call upon you to support us. Thank you.
So, не надо. So, yeah. The name of the comrade is Dmitry Petrov. You can also check. We have his last letter in the internet, which sometimes I read, but today don't want, because he wrote as a letter in case he will die. So we have his recommendations, and more or less the recommendation is to keep fighting, even if he will leave us. So that happened, and you can find the letter. And also he was doing a lot of research on Rojava. He published books in Russian language about Rojava. So if somebody of you speaks Russian, you can find Dmitry Petrov, Цветы пустыни. And yeah, also it's a lot of his interviews. He was quite well known and one of the most active between the Russian speaking people. So you can find more information if you want. Yeah, the same for other comrades. They all were great and very active. And do you have questions? Because today I'm a bit... It would be nice if you more like ask something. Or in Finland you understand everything and you don't need... You're quite close to it.
Just to know that we still have a stream, but we can switch it off at some point. But maybe we can have some questions for the stream. We just have to repeat it for the microphone because otherwise it's not possible to hear.
Well, I have a question. Can I just say it from here, or do I have to come closer?
I have to repeat your question anyway here.
Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe you repeat my question because I'm just kind of forming it in my head. Like, how do the regular Ukrainians like think about this anarchist collective, anti-authoritarian collective? Like, what is their way of thinking of this kind of regular people? Because you were already like mentioning that, well, still at the 90s the scene was really small and like you were really few of you. So I'm just like kind of asking this question, like how do you find it generally? Like what is kind of the general opinion about the anti-authoritarian movement, and now you are there in the front line fighting the dictator? So
I don't think that...
It's okay. No need.
I don't think that we are really very recognizable for normal people. I think they're happy if we help them, but it's not that they really understand what are actually our ideas. That's the difficult part there. Because when Soviet Union, like when Bolsheviks took power, the thing they made to anarchists, to Makhno army and to other anarchists is not only that they killed part of them and made other oppression on all of them actually. It's also that they like really whispered, like made it totally invisible all the history of the anarchist movement, even though Ukraine is actually the place where one of the biggest things happened, because like Makhnovshina was very, very important for the movement in general. But if you will ask people in Ukraine who was actually Makhno, they will say he was a national hero, but what was his ideas? Nobody knows. Maybe they will say it's anarchism, but what is this anarchism? People don't know. So I think that when we say we are anti-authoritarian, maybe some young people, because I see we are getting a bit more of attention from young auditory, but with the older people, they don't understand what is it. And if they do, I mean, whatever, if they see you're helping, you like now, respect to fighters is huge, also to volunteers is quite big. So in general, usually you can expect that people will treat you good. I know that some comrades are very open with their ideas in their units, but I think it's better to talk to them, because I can guess that it's very different in different situations, but I never heard any negative things. So it's more neutral or interested. I would expect that more neutral. I would say that also the society itself changes a lot now. For example, I was expecting actually that with the war we will have like really huge wave of more of patriarchy, or like this being non-friendly to LGBT people or whatever. Like, but actually last social research thing saying it's opposite. We are quite patriarchal society. We are like much, I mean, I think more than other most of the other European places. But now it actually changes. I would say it's also because both women are very visible in this battle, because army has already something like 17-18% of female, even like ruling some tank divisions. So it's really visible that female tried, and before 2015, I think, or 16, no, 15, we even didn't have any law about their existence. It was forbidden for women, for female people, like for non-male passport people to take part in army. And also, I would say that LGBT groups are trying to make it more visible that they are also present there, which also changes. Now it's really like who is taking part in war changes their political situation. Who don't, they don't. Who wants to be present, they should be present in helping society and helping people against this attempt to invade and kill them. That's kind of true. So according to the last exit, like this social researches, actually we have less of people who will associate themselves with church, less people who will say that they really hate like different LGBT groups, or who will think that females should be in the kitchen. This percentage is going lower. With LGBTQ, I think it was 46 or 40 something, which was like really bad, and now it's 36. It's still very high, but during 1 year, it's really like, I don't know how it works like this. I can guess that its presence in army makes changes. I even saw right wing who are now trying to say, no, that's not true, they are not there. But if you have these real people who say, hello, it's me, I'm present, I'm fighting here, it's really difficult to say that they are lying, because they're not. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. I hope it would be more like detailed researches, how does it work. So if we are present when we are coming, it's definitely a positive thing. And what people think after that, we should also research somehow in future. It's not enough time to really make any conclusions on this topic. No questions? Maybe you scare people with your stream, huh?
Yeah, I can switch
Well,
to
I can
stream
have
off.
another question also. Or maybe if there is a question online, or I don't know.
No, it's not.
Okay. I mean, like, yeah, after like, yeah, and thanks for the representation. It was really great. Also quite like touching, and like I'm seeing all these people like what died, and like and in this like situation of so many losses, like how as a collective you kind of take care of your like mental health collectively. Like, do you have some kind of aims how to like, or ways how to kind of kind of take care of each other as a collective somehow, to just in order to be able to still like continue your work?
Some
I don't
people,
know, like, do you have like some kind of
some people just burnt out. We lost people because they don't have energy anymore and resources to act. But I think that we don't have any like practices really. It's more like simultaneous. For example, if somebody is dying, other ones are trying to recognize who was the closest people and support. When we had these 3 people lost, we also had even foreign comrades who came to help us also with practical things. So because I would say that with this, it's like 3 people 1 day, so everybody in collective would be close with one or another of them. So it's kind of complicated, but I mean, we have a lot of support also. I know, we just try to support. Sometimes we share how we feel. We can be angry on somebody, but it's more like natural thing which people do. We don't have much more of practices. We sometimes discuss that maybe it's good to go to psychologists at least, so one or two of us started to do it, but yeah, more like that we are doing it on our own. Maybe we will develop something of this, but it's also so many tasks that it's complicated. We're also trying to think now about people who actually finish into fight because of, like, if you are badly wounded, you will not fight anymore. So how we will support them, because they will still need support in future, also after, like, maybe not all of them, but some of them, and also psychiatric and psychologist support. But also we have families who lost, like our comrades who lost families, and we're also thinking, but it's a lot of things to think about. So I cannot say that we are really covering all of that. I think we just, some months ago, we started to discuss this psychology topic a bit, but not very fast. For repeat, if you know some good strategies, you can share and we will discuss. I know that it's...
if you have some resources, like you said, like maybe psychologists or some, like, who are kind of voluntarily, like, giving their resources, for instance, in your networks or something, or like that kind of possibilities.
We in general have these Ukrainian hotlines with psychological help, but as I understand the system, also soldiers should have separate, they have separate psychiatrists and maybe even separate psychologists. It's not like for civilians and for militants, it should be different, but I was not personally interested in this, so I don't know how it works in practice. I know that it is a list of people who you can ask, but I'm not sure they still have any time because it was published online. In general, in Ukraine, it's not very popular to go to psychologists. We still have a bit of stigma on this topic too. So there are people who like, no, never, I don't believe in it. So I know. I think that also the amount of shit you are going through makes you closer with your collective in general, and I think that for me personally, their support is now much more important. That not much, but I mean, just I know that it's something very important on which you can expect support and understanding. For example, when it was the biggest during the war loss for me, first thing I want to do is immediately go to Ukraine, because with all the bombings it's still much calmer there, because everybody understands you, nobody criticizes you, it's like calm and nice and good. And I think it's also important just to be with people who live through the same bad things as you. More or less, but nothing like really developed. We need to develop it. We kind of discuss it, but we didn't do it yet.
Thank you for the presentation. It was very new information and very nice that you came here to tell us. I missed the first part, but I'm really interested in this. Can you tell me about the relationship between these collectives and police and the National Army?
I mean, our fighters are part of National Army. There are no other way to... I mean, you can do this kind of piracy, I know, like these volunteers, but the only difference would be that you will not have salary, more or less, but also officially you don't have a commander, which is nice, but then you still stay with army. You still do whatever is needed there with the same people. It doesn't make a big difference. Most of the people who may have this volunteer status, they are not because of the political things. It's more that they just don't have normal documents, so they deal like they are Russian and Belarus citizens or something like this. So it's strategically just not clever to do it. I mean, yes, it's contradiction, this going to army, but we are not the first example between anarchists and left who do. And we are not choosing between good and bad, it just... So for sure, yes, we are part of National Army. That's just the reality. But it's also, I mean, army during war and army during non-war time is actually very different, because during war, even your commander would be rather the person who never planned to have any professional army, blah, 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 dealing with, for like working for state or something. It would be some guy from local factory who was old enough and who had army cathedra in university, so he is a commander now. So you will really deal with the same people who were civilians before, and now they are fighting because we are attacked and don't want to be killed. So that's kind of very simple when you are there. I would say that between anarchists, the day we woke up 24th February, before we had a huge, we didn't understand each other's position. Some people thought already that we should fight in army. Some people were, me personally, I was strongly against. I was super on these anti-militarist positions. No, like, in my opinion, for anarchists, not very good to be the sectant mood when you are not under bombs now. For people who are from regions closer to, it was already a bit different. 24th February, you're waking up in the morning from explosions. Consensus comes very fast. Maybe consensus minus like really few people. Most of the people really understand what to do. So now, when you see like practical part, yes, you can discuss how to deal inside, how to try to make it less hierarchical, how to try to kind of talk with how, like which things to tell people around, how to try to involve some more people to understand your positions and your values and share it a bit, and how to do that, but with the fact that to fight you need to go to army. I don't think you will find like a lot of people who will say something different. So for us, that's how it works. With police, I know what with police, they are somewhere there where they were always. We didn't have we didn't have many years like any people in jail. So yeah, they are not nice, we know that. I mean, it's also that state doesn't become your friend really. You just doing what you need to do strategically to take part in fight, and that's the end of the story. You are not really changing. For me, like people around, I don't see, especially when they see all the corruption, all the minuses with army. It's not that they go to army, national army, and then they, oh fuck, I love army, I love state. No, that's not how it works. I think they're even more negative to them than civilians. So yeah. What about Finland? Are you expecting Russia will attack? No? Somebody?
It's a very manipulative question. Can I return to collective solidarity?
Okay.
I'm from Kiev, so I know people there, and I also follow like social media. And my question, one is some. If it's not comfortable question, you have a choice. Don't answer. And another but step by step. I know that people do lots of this volunteering work, and it's like takes all day, and it's even like work without holidays, or sometimes people do it, of course, and it's good, very good. But anyway, I really don't understand how people where they get some money for personal life.
Mm-hmm. I think it's only one or two of us who don't work. So people still do work, sometimes online or part job, but they still do. Sometimes we support some activists who really are in bad situation, but we also support people who are not in the collective, just in general, if they need support. It's also a part of soldiers who are these volunteers. They don't have salary, which means they will also support them with some money every month. I mean, yeah. But with the volunteers, people do work. Like somebody had a part-time job before. For example, me, I have part-time job. For sure, I do not enough now, and sometimes I can ask my mom to support me or something. But in general, I think that most of the people still work, and the most active really spend all the fucking time with volunteer things. They are the ones who also do full-time job, usually. So it's just the question how long they can do like this. But for the moment, most of the people work.
Thank you for answering. And another question, I'm really glad that these people from leftist community, they stay on these ideas, leftist, anarchist, and continue to speak with Russian comrades, Belarusian comrades, but also and I think inside you haven't any hate speech for these people, but mainstream channel use a lot of this manipulative way, hate speech, and if collective solidarity collectives think about to work with this topic, because I met some proposition to work with this topic about hate speech in feminist community, but also it was a very difficult topic. It was 1 year ago on one feminist camp, but still I didn't meet any articles or about this topic. How leftist feminist community should start to work with this, because I think it will be a big problem in the future, because you said that you tried to work in political way.
Mm-hmm. I mean, with political way, I meant more like working with, talking to Ukrainian people about their own problem inside. So about economical problems, or corruption, or I know that we should take care that we will not become another dictatorship, because we have experience of these neighboring countries. But with the hate speech, I know, I mean, when people are bombed, it's quite natural to hate very widely. I mean, that just happens. My grandma was hating Germans till her last breath, and it was impossible to change. So for me to really work with this, we should first work to stop what is going on. Because telling people who are bombed that they should hate not this but that, it's really, I don't believe it will. Me personally, we didn't discuss it as a collective, and I mean, when people are dying, spending a lot of time on it, and maybe if it would be a huge movement, people have resources for that. For the moment, not. And I would say, but for me, for example, when this Leshiy, Dmitry Petrov was killed, I was checking all the fucking news because he was my friend, so I was very interested. And I expected to see how Ukrainians saying he was still Russian, blah, blah, blah. No, just rest in peace, nothing. And then when you check Russian media, what they were saying about him, that was really bad. That he is betrayer and stuff like this. So I think that people hate maybe lower, but only when it's over. Then we will need to develop some strategies how to speak about people, because there are people who really against, there are people who even fight for us, there are people, there are different people for sure. But people can see that a lot of people still support this killing machine, and for sure they will, that is bad thing, but it's quite natural thing.
Maybe last question, and then we have to start the show. Nothing. So, thank you.
Дякую.